Chapter 8. Darrigan. Amira jolted awake at the thud of the door. She froze, listening. The room was dark, the fireplace smoldering to embers. The usual murmur of a palace asleep met her ears. Nothing was amiss, except she sensed Ka blooming from the sitting room. The source was large, too large to be a rat or some other rodent. She doubted there were rats in this palace anyway. Had Dangerth returned? It seemed unlikely, but she never could seem to predict that man. Amira pulled on the dressing robe beside the bed. It was made of a light, delicate fabric that shimmered like gossamer. Belting it around her waist, she padded into the sitting room. Amira stepped into the parlor, only to come to a sharp halt. Outlined in the fireplace's glow, a dark figure waited. He was swathed in black linens and leathers, knife and dagger hilts of varying sizes protruding from sheaths strapped over his waist, arms, and legs. Amira firmly planted one foot in front of the other and faced him, arms loose at her sides. She didn't bother with politeness. "What do you want?" "Do you not remember me?" The captain of the guard tilted his head ever so slightly in her direction. "I remember you." Amira's hands clenched. "If you're here to kill me, I'd like to get it over with." "Giving up so easily?" He turned to properly survey her head to foot. Whether he approved, disapproved, or was apathetic, she couldn't tell. "No, little sister. I'm not here to kill you." Little sister? So he knew she was a Kadrahan. No surprise there. Amira arched her brow, trying not to let him see her true fear. "What then?" Darrigan folded his arms across his chest, leaning against the side of the fireplace. "How long have you been bonded to the archduke?" Amira hesitated to answer, but she suspected that Darrigan already knew the truth. "Not long. My father handed me off by accident." "Ah." Darrigan observed the leaping flames, eyes glittering gold in the firelight. "You must be rebellious, to have served your father for so long, and still have only a dash of power." Amira tensed. A Kadrahan's curse forced obedience to the letter of their master's commands, but service, true service, was what made them stronger. "How would you know?" she asked. The captain's smile turned predatory. "I have served Emperor Tristan, and now Empress Vesha for decades, girl. Good and faithfully. These days, there is little that I don't know." Studying him closer, Amira looked him from head to foot, feeling for Ka. Power smoldered beneath his skin. Amira had once passed near a fire mountain on the steppes of Rakeshi and seen the lava flows that ambled down the black slopes. Darrigan's power reminded her of that. Hot, viscous, and able to consume anything it touched. Yes, he had served Vesha well, and his curse had rewarded him with the power to serve her even better. The older Kadrahan was quiet for a moment. He frowned, the muscles in his jaw flexing. "You would kill him, if you had the chance?" Amira cocked her head to the side. "I'm not that stupid." "Or just too ignorant?" Amira frowned at that. "What do you mean?" Darrigan stepped away from the fireplace, arms still locked across his chest. "Did you meet?" Darrigan hesitated. A woman in your position would kill him if she could, if she was smart. The Archduke isn't so bad, Amira retorted. As far as forced marriages, I could have done worse. Not him. Darrigan's voice snapped off, as if he meant to say more after that, but his jaw had been slammed shut. Who? Amira asked. Even as she spoke, the memory of the red eyes flashed in her mind. A sinking feeling coiled in her gut. Darrigan knew about that, too. He had to. As Vesha's Kadrahan, he would be privy to the imperial family's secrets, even their worst ones. All Dangerous servants had seemed to know. Why not Darrigan? Darrigan jerked his chin to her. I was there, he said. This morning, when the Archduke spoke to the Empress. His jaw tightened again. He blinked at a space over Amira's shoulder, his brow furrowing. You're an interesting woman, Amira Brindonu, daughter of the Istavari, daughter of the curse workers, the women who cursed emperors. Amira's nostrils flared in annoyance. Dangerous had mentioned that the curse had first been placed on his father, and that it had been placed by the Istavari. But she still didn't understand. Will you speak plain? A muscle in Darrigan's cheek flickered. I can't. Amira's eyes widened as realization set in. Vesha ordered you against it. Darrigan nodded curtly, once. Be careful, he said, and the warning sounded genuine. You need to find a way, he added, voice growing hoarse. A way to finish. Amira pursed her lips. An unbidden pang of sympathy went through her chest. She thought of trying to warn Fawnra while her father's curse forbade it. Darrigan must have embraced his lot in life and flourished as a powerful Kadrahan, but he was still a slave. What do I need to finish? She asked. You're an assassin. Darrigan spat the phrase like a curse, then frowned. Amira blinked at him. You want me to finish the assassination? She had to be hearing wrong. Was this a test? Some sort of trap? Were they trying to get her to confess? But that made no sense. Dangerous could just order her to tell him anything. But the alternative, that Darrigan was desperate enough to defy his own loyalties and curse to see the Archduke dead, came with a whole host of other implications she was too afraid to consider. Darrigan took another step toward her. Amira still didn't retreat. You've seen... Darrigan's teeth clacked together, and he frowned, staring at the space over her shoulder. The other, he grimaced. Realization made Amira's eyes go wide. Darrigan had been ordered not to speak of the Archduke's condition. He was trying to speak around the Empress's commands. Slip past the words of his liege, like Amira had done with her father so many times. That thing? Amira whispered, dropping her voice instinctively. The monster. Darrigan opened his mouth, then hissed as if in pain, and turned his head to the side. He stayed that way for several long heartbeats before facing her again. Darrigan was at least 3 times as powerful as Amira, if the caw wafting off him was any indication. To be that powerful, he must have served well indeed. What could drive such a loyal servant to subvert his empress now? But Amira already knew the answer. A monster. The monster inside the Archduke. Darrigan's mouth worked like he was chewing on the curse, gnawing for a weak point. He gave no sign of choking or physical pain, but then perhaps the curse was gentler with him after so many years of partnering with it instead of fighting it. I don't know what the archduke has told you, or what you think you know, but Darrigan paused, seeming to wrestle with his curse for another moment before continuing. There isn't much time left. This is madness. Yes, Darrigan agreed. Utter madness. But you know it's the truth. For your family, for the Empire, for us all. Even the Archduke. Darrigan's words were low and dark, like oncoming thunder. He drew a silver blade from his belt. Amira took a step back, but the other Kadrahan just tossed the blade to the floor at her feet. It's better for us all this way. Amira looked between the knife on the ground and the Kadrahan, not moving. What are you saying? You're an Istavari, Darrigan said flatly. What's that supposed to mean? Darrigan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He snapped his jaw shut. A command from the empress had stopped him again. Interesting. You would have me kill your mistress's only heir. Amira couldn't even begin to consider the implications in that. You would betray her. Disobey her. I thought you served her. Sometimes, he said, speaking each word with careful, deliberate precision. Service and obedience are two different things. You think I would do anything to bring the Empire's wrath on my family? By family, she meant Fonra. If she killed the Archduke and they knew who had done it, vengeance would come crashing down on Highlandale hard enough to make Emperor Dristan's wars look like practice. Vesha needs Dangerous dead, Darrigan said. But she doesn't have the heart to do it. A shadow passed over his face, and Amira suspected that he and the Empress had exchanged many words over the matter. The Kadrahan saved your life. You owe us, if not the Empire. Amira's arms burned. The memory of that day seared along the crooks of her elbows. You saved me because my father made a bargain. Darrigan was unmoved. Have I made myself clear? Yes, she said, barely able to manage more than a whisper. She still had 100 questions, and 100 new ones on top of that. But Darrigan couldn't tell her even if he wanted to. The Kadrahan nodded. Then he was gone. Slipping out the door of the apartment with only a murmured word to the guards outside. Amira stood there for several long moments before she reached for the knife on the floor. The blade was flawlessly balanced, made of the finest steel. It was the length of her hand and gleamed with sharpening. It was a risk for Darrigan to give her this, and that was an understatement. Unless this was the most elaborate trap set in the history of mankind, the older Kadrahan was desperate. Fearfully desperate. That thought was enough to send a shudder down Amira's spine.